it's super easy to find negativity out there. And I don't know, it's also easy to get tired of it. I have seen over and over again every single conversation that's happening in the public sphere turn toxic. Whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking faith, talking about relationships. I mean, you could be talking about anything, and it quickly can spiral into something that, it could have seemed like it had the positive direction. It could have seemed like it could have been a worthwhile conversation. And in the end, it turns into a dumpster fire. I don't know. Can I get an amen in the comments? I have had a life filled with negative comments, whether they're coming toward me, whether they're about people around me, whether it becomes once you get socially aware and you start noticing that the stuff that you're listening to or watching is either promoting negativity or it is kind of insinuating or it is the negative thing. I've noticed that we are great at receiving and reciprocating negative messages, messages of death and sinfulness, messages of rage and anger, messages of rejection, bullying. We're excellent at those and communicating those, but where we struggle is words of affirmation, words of understanding, words of tolerance and acceptance, words of caring and consideration. And I understand this from just my study. One of the verses from the Bible that has stuck with me throughout the years is the one that says that the power of death and life is in the tongue. And so while I just think about whether it's the music or the media or the social media, whatever it is, whether it's something that I've heard in the morning, in the evening, something I'm watching, if we have the power to choose between death and life, while so many others are choosing death, I choose to spit life. And that's where I want to welcome you to the SpitLIFE podcast. This is something that has been on my heart to do for many, many years, and I have let nervousness, and I'm even nervous to be recording right now. And it's crazy because my whole career as an adult has been speaking in front of people, but for whatever reason, this is something that has been something that has been just, I've been too nervous, getting a little lightheaded right now, a little too nervous to just get into. But I'm into it now, and so I'm trying to be faithful to the vision that I have received over my life, and so that's going to require me to step outside my comfort zone. And while I do it with friends and family all the time, that is talk. I do it in church all the time. I've done it in classrooms. Now it's time to speak specifically from the perspective of SpitLIFE. And that's me, Ernest Almond. I'm Ernest Almond, aka SpitLIFE. This is the SpitLIFE podcast, where we are trying to frame everything from the conversation, frame everything in our conversations from perspective that edifies, that builds up, that gives perspective and understanding, not just saying stuff just to say it. And so I came across, not even came across, but heard for the first time the two words SpitLIFE put together in a song by the rap group Cross Movement, probably, pushing 20 years ago. And the term just stuck with me. And at some point, what happened was God gave me a vision for this media entity that would be SpitLIFE. And it was blogging or vlogging back then is what they called it, a video blog. And I even started blogging a little bit, but you know how you start something and stop something. That's kind of what I did and have done a lot of times. But it was also a switch for my rap identity. I was switching from the rap name EST to SpitLIFE, and I started doing a little bit of that. I was changing some of my social media handles to be SpitLIFE, and so I was prepared to make the move, but I didn't. And so what I want to set up this space to be is the fulfillment of a vision, the fulfillment of a dream. I'm firmly in that middle age range, and I understand what people say now when they talk about midlife crises. I would like to shift the perspective to midlife clarity. And it's something where I see now that there are things that I've wanted or I felt been called to do. And if I don't start now, I'm never going to start. And I can't live with the idea that I'll have a vision that God has had and been tapping on my heart and my mind with it for years and years and years. And I just disobeyed out of nervousness or fear or whatever it may be. So here we go. I want to tell you a little bit about me, and I'm looking over my computer screen because it's got my notes. But I just want to tell you a little bit about me so that we can get acquainted. Because if you're going to be family, and we're going to be family, we're going to be in community, we need to know each other. So we'll start with me. And so I am a certified educator. Yes, I am. I started my teaching career in the year 2001, and just like almost everything in my life, especially my adult life, I came to it by faith, like the old school saints. We come this far by faith. What they say? Leaning on the Lord. Yeah. So I was not living for the Lord at the time, but he still got my attention. And I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I'm repping UNC today. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and in the spring semester of my senior year, I was not yet sure what I was going to do. I had a mentor that was steering me toward going to grad school for Africana Studies to get deeper into that because that was my first major. And I wasn't sure what else I wanted to do, but that wasn't super compelling. I had two little sisters that were either in college or about to be in college in the same area I was in. So I kind of wanted to be around for them, but I just wasn't convinced of what I was going to do. And so, but I didn't have any clear options. I was just kind of like drifting along, enjoying my senior year of college. And so when I get to the place of, well, I don't know where I was about to go, but let me get back to the story. I was about to say, you ever had thoughts that interrupt thoughts? I have that. It's like bumper cars in my brain. So let me get back to where I was. How did I become a teacher? That's the question. I'm sitting in the presentation of UNC's 50-year master plan. This is way back in the year 2001. And so I'm sitting there in this meeting, and for no reason at all, because I'm supposed to be paying attention to them talking about the buildings they're going to build. And I'm kind of in there. I was there because I was a student leader on campus, and I understood kind of what was going on, but I zoned out for a second, and I just heard the word teach. I heard the word teach, and I may have heard it a couple of times, but I heard the word teach very clearly, very clearly. I don't know about you. Have you ever had a time where you just heard a voice, not your own, speak something to you that you don't fully understand? I know now that it was the Lord, but then I wasn't sure at first. So even though I wasn't living for the Lord, I was still out partying and doing my thing and kind of with the knowledge of God, but not too committed to him. You could call it casual. I wouldn't even call it Christianity. I call it casual relationship. We had a situationship with God. He was committed to me. I wasn't committed to him. But what happened was after I heard that, I kind of ran with it. I was like, okay, teach. If that is what you want me to do, God, then you got to make it happen. Well, why does he got to make it happen? Because I didn't go to college to teach. I had no education classes. Not one education class had I taken, and it was the spring semester of my senior year in college. And so I had the spring semester senior year schedule. Like, I've done everything I need to do. I had one online class. I had one independent study where I was working on this essay that I was going to present at the National Council for Black Studies. And I had one class in person. That was it. That's all I needed. And so I wasn't going to add no classes, nothing like that. God, if you tell me to teach, you got to help make me teach. And so I'm in Orange County, North Carolina. I start filling out applications. They had this North Carolina teaching application. We could apply to multiple school districts. And so I did apply to multiple school districts, maybe 4 or 5 school districts, like Wake County, Durham County, Orange County, I don't know, a bunch of them. And so my major in college, what I got my degree is over there. My first degree from UNC Chapel Hill was Afro and African American Studies and Political Science, double major. And so in teaching, I had enough courses where I could have like gone for a English minor. I didn't, but I had enough courses for it. And so what I ended up doing was applying, and I heard back only from two districts. I heard back from one school in Orange County, which I believe was Cedar Ridge. I think it was a fairly new high school at the time. And so I went there to the interview. It was the interview for an English position, and I thought I did pretty well. I thought I did pretty good. I felt like I represented myself well. And then but I didn't hear anything back immediately. So of course you keep taking interviews. Don't take one interview and stop. I took another interview, and this interview was at Southern Durham High School, and I was cool. I was cool. I was in college. I had just graduated from college. I was going casual to these because I'm special like that. I had my polo on, my khakis. I had my little shell necklace because I was a cool guy. At least I thought I was. And I bring up my outfit because the guy interviewing me, he brought up my outfit. Like Mr. Dwight Womble. Like 6'3", dark skinned, older black gentleman, serious as a heart attack, baritone like Darth Vader, and just don't like stone face interview. No expression whatsoever, but he's asking me questions and like, well, what are you gonna do if a student disrespects you and you expect them to take you seriously, dress all casual with your chain around, your shell necklace on, and he's asking me real questions. He wasn't disrespectful at all, but it was that old black man energy that I am really about that life energy. And I was not ready because, again, I was not prepared to teach. I'm just going on a word from a God that I'm barely serving. Barely as in the bare minimal. I'm following his instruction to teach. Outside of that, I'm still trying to do my thing. But yeah, I interviewed and I answered the questions to the best of my ability. This was, I think, for a social studies position. And I was distraught. Let me tell you, fam, I was so distraught when this interview was over that driving home, I got lost on the way home. I zoned out so bad. I ended up in a part of Durham I wasn't familiar with. I'm like, how did I get here? Let me get back home. I felt like I was going to cry inside. Not on the outside, on the inside. And so I'm working in a summer program called Upward Bound at UNC for the summer, so I got a place to stay. I already have my apartment. I already got my roommate. All of that is already taken care of. I just need a job, and so I get so I don't know, man, so concerned. I actually do something. I start doing something on my own that I hadn't really done in years, and that is go to church. Now, my mom was from Chapel Hill. And so the church that I went to wasn't any of the ones that were popping with all the college students. I went to my mom's church that she grew up in that my grandma still went to. I went to Hickory Grove Missionary Baptist Church on 9112 Bethel Hickory Grove Church Road in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I went there and I think I took a couple of friends with me, but I went there. I gave him a little $5 offering, and on the offering envelope, I wrote, "Pray for me to get a job." All right, because it was July, it was almost August. It was July. I ain't heard nothing back. Nobody's responding. I'm not getting no more interviews. I need something, Lord. I need something. And so it's crazy because that's the Sunday. This is a Sunday right before Upward Bound ends, 1 or 2 weeks before teachers report to work. And so I put in the envelope in the offering on Sunday. On Tuesday, the pastor who had started there, he'd been like 4 years, started when I got to Carolina, and he was in his fourth year there, Pastor Williams. He called me on my phone because I left my phone number on the envelope, and he prayed with me for a job. And that was dope because that's literally never happened to me before. Nothing like that has ever had ever happened to me before. And so he prayed for me. That was Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're boarding the bus to go on the end of program summer trip for Upward Bound. And then that next week, new teachers start. I still ain't got a job yet. But Wednesday, when we're boarding the bus, I get a phone call from the new principal at Southern Durham High School. His name is Larry McDonald. And he offered me my choice of two positions. I could have taught ESC. Well, it's ESC in Florida. I forgot what it was called in North Carolina. But the students with special needs, I could have gone there, or I could have taught social studies, right? And so having my poli sci experience, all that, I was like, well, I'll take the social studies position. And so I took the social studies position. That is how I got into teaching. It wasn't something I prepared for. It wasn't something I was consciously being led to. It's something that God gave me a word in the spring of 2001, and I followed it until he opened the door. And so I stayed in education for 24 years. 24 years. In fact, I just left education. I just left. But education was very rewarding to me. I got to meet so many wonderful young people, so many wonderful adults. I was able to be blessed and still have some relationships with some of the students that I taught many years ago and recently as well. But I was in the classroom for about 16 of those years. I was in the classroom from '01 to 2016. 2016. Survived budget cuts and layoffs, and God moved in my life and put me in better positions, and I got to experience education. It was a beautiful thing. And so I think that the turning point for me was when I was ready to leave. Well, no, the turning point was this. Turning point was the program that we moved down here to Jacksonville. I was in a program called A Bridge to Success, and I was enjoying myself with small setting, helping kids reclaim credits, similar to something I did in Durham. And so they can graduate, because if they without that program they weren't going to graduate. They were at least 2 years behind, so we're trying to help them get caught up. I was there for 2 years, loved it, and loved the co-workers, the team, the students. I loved it all. And then they cut it. Cut, budget cuts. And so they cut it. They cut my position, surplus me. And so at that point, it's like, I don't, in my heart, and, well, two things that happened. One, my son is about to be born. My first son, Ethan, is about to be born. And so I find out about the cuts maybe right before he's born. And I found out about the transfer fare that they were going to be doing to provide opportunities for people to get other jobs in the district. And so while I'm out on paternity leave, the week after my son is born in May, I go out and I start interviewing, and I just don't feel, it does not sit right with me to try to find another teaching position. It's just like, it's not feeling right. And so I go to tables, I went to a table trying to see if they, not a table. I went to a table where they were trying to get a dean of students, which is like a dean of discipline, and yeah, a dean that handles the discipline. And so I went there. It was maybe a Wednesday. Had to be a Wednesday, I think. The transfer fair was. I interviewed for, like I said, I sat down for a couple of teaching positions, but then I went to this high school, Terry Parker High School's table. I was speaking to the assistant principal and the athletic director, and they got on the phone with the principal. The principal invited me out for an interview the next day. I went for an interview. By the end of the interview, they were asking, so, are you looking for other positions? I'm just like, listen, I'm just trying to go wherever God wants me to go. I literally said that. Like, what if this position is it, I'm great. If this isn't it, God's going to do something. God's going to provide. And so she asked me the next day to come visit and look around and like be in the school during the day. And so I came and I watched and everything. And she offered me the position. Talked to my wife, took the position. She tried to hire me, but because I was out on paternity leave, I missed the emails about being screened to become a dean. And because she wanted to hire me, by God's grace, she waited weeks until I finally got cleared to be a dean to officially make it to hire me. And she gave me the responsibility of leading this program called 5,000 Role Models of Excellence. And so this is a real shift in my career, y'all, because I had never been in school leadership, and I've never aspired to be in school leadership. My third year teaching Mr. Womble, who I mentioned earlier, encouraged me to pursue being an assistant principal. But there was no parts of me, and to this day, there's no parts of me that have ever wanted to be a principal. I see what they have to deal with. I see what they got to do. Not even trying it. Okay, and so this many years later is an opportunity to push me into school leadership, and it did exactly that. Instead of having a classroom of like 15, 20, maybe 25 kids at the Bridge to Success, I'm the dean at a school of 16, 1700. Working with assistant principals, and I'm in the leadership meetings. I'm learning. I'm having to organize different strategies for how we're going to handle like tardies and different behavior issues. I'm got this high level of reporting accountability with district behavioral specialists and all this other stuff. All this other stuff I never knew I needed. Plus, I got this club that I'm sponsoring my first year with a newborn, a new church, and a new job. They also gave me the responsibility for leading this mentoring program called the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project. And so I'm struggling. I'm drowning. I got this supervisor that's coming. He's real supportive because it's a at-risk boys program. And so I'm struggling because no sleep at night because of the baby. Got these super early mornings, which I was used to because high schools here start at 7:15. I was just moved from one high school as a teacher to another high school as a dean. And I honestly, man, it was some of the hardest work I've done because of the life season I was in. But I made some great relationships with those boys, that first wave of boys that were in the mentoring program, with some of the young ladies that I worked with, and even with some of the adults and some of the parents of the kids. I was able to build some really positive relationships. And so it was a huge blessing. And it got me sharp. Kept me in shape because I was always moving, but it also kept me sharp. Because the paperwork had to be right, school documentation, that's legal tender. And so if I'm documenting discipline issues, or I'm documenting parent conferences or mediation, doing peace treaties between groups of kids that are trying to fight and saying, we're not going to touch each other. I had to have records and all of this. And so it really helped me understand systems, and also helped me understand how to grow and be successfully grow the mentoring program, because most of the guys that were there that were with the guy that was there before me, they were jocks and football players and stuff, and I'm just not him. Like, he's a great dude, but he was a coach for the football team, and I'm just a regular dude. I'm just a regular dude. And so when it all came together, I was able to have a positive experience. Those 4 years, grew a lot of great relationships, became really solid at doing the different aspects of the job: the organizing, the leading small teams, the planning out events, the supporting teachers, the building relationships with families. It all prepared me for the promotion I got in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and I was appointed the supervisor of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project for the district. That's what I spent the last 5 years doing. And we started out serving about 350 boys. And by the time we left, we were pushing 850. We were serving 14, 15 schools. By the time I left, we were serving about 32 schools. We had a lot of success, got opportunities to send boys to college on scholarships, take hundreds and hundreds of boys on college visits for the first time and multiple times after that. I mean, it was a really great program and great experience. And I got to meet leaders all over the nation, honestly, all over the nation. And I got to build up leaders from my site directors that I supervised, and also the boys that I worked with. So it was all just a really powerful experience, an opportunity to build on other people's visions that I believed in. And it gave me an opportunity to truly just use some gifts and talents. I don't know about you, but it's nice to be able to do work that has true meaning, even if it's not your dream job, even if it's not your dream. it's still a blessing to be able to do something that you know for a fact is going to be a blessing. And that was what 5,000 Role Models was for me. It was work that was truly a blessing. Got to work with amazing people, support amazing kids, and just had an awesome time doing it. But all good things must come to an end. And so I left that position at the end of the 24-25 school year because my true passion lies in ministry. I started teaching in 2001 because the Lord led me. At the end of 2001, the Lord called me all the way home. And that doesn't mean I got perfected all at once and I never made mistakes again or any of that, but I truly accepted my call, prophet, pastor calling on my life at the end of 2001. And so I joined the church. I got baptized one day. I'll tell y'all the testimony behind that. That's a huge element of how convicted I am in my walk, like how focused I am and how I refuse to turn back. No matter how many times I stumble, it's rooted a lot in how I came forward. But man, I told my pastor after I got back at Hickory Grove Missionary Baptist Church, I told him what I believed that I was called to do, and he began to put me in position to exercise those gifts by being an assistant, by working with the little kids, by helping out, doing whatever was needed, and not, putting me on a platform first or putting me on a stage first to give me authority first. No, I had several months of proving myself by being faithful in the little things before I did my initial sermon November 10th, 2002. And still, there were challenges after that, but that was when I really began preaching, helping run service. I was teaching the kids already, but just continuing to develop myself. And it's when I made the shift from doing secular hip hop music, which I was moderately known for at UNC. At UNC, I was known for a couple of things. I was known the first thing that got me in public consciousness was being an MC. And so that was my freshman year. I joined a club called Hip Hop Nation and did some rapping throughout college. My sophomore year, I pledged a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And so from UNC, you probably knew me. If you were going to say anything about who I was, it was going to be one of those two things that would be the first couple of triggers. And so, or first couple of identity points or whatever. And so hip hop has been a lifelong love for me, despite it not being something that was allowed in my house most of the time. Anytime my dad heard whatever was playing, it could be the clean versions, it didn't matter to him. To him, it was all the devil's music, no matter whether it had a positive message or not. But I fell in love with it. And so when I had the opportunity to learn to write it and perform it, I took full advantage. And so I loved it and loved hip hop music, loved what it was, the way it communicated, the rawness of it, the production style, the musical style of it. I loved all of that. And then I got saved in a traditional Black Baptist church that started in 1877, and there was none of that. None of that at all. In fact, like, I didn't even know that Christians rapped. And so I was struggling. I was trying to do Kirk Franklin. And I was trying to be faithful to my calling. I was trying to learn the hymns and trying to be faithful to learn and study the word. And I was trying to do all the right things. But I was starving culturally because I felt like I had to take everything that was part of me off and put on the suit and the tie. And I was growing out locks at the time. And people look at me funny because I'm growing out my hair, because it was not a thing that people did, especially in the traditional church back then. But it was just part of my spiritual process. And so I got connected. Thank God for Terrence McCauley giving me a Christian rap mix CD. I listened. I realized that there was some terrible Christian rap out there, and there was some dope Christian rap out there. And so I started rapping. I had a friend that produced a couple of tracks and showed me how he made beats, and I learned, and so like 2/3 of my first project I produced, and maybe 3/4 of my second project I produced. And so I was traveling around the state. I was doing the youth ministry stuff at church. I was doing these back to school programs. I was going out and getting trained and then bringing the trainings back to our community because there wasn't a lot of training for youth leaders. And so I was doing that as well as doing these and traveling around with my music. And it was something that I felt very strongly about, but like what happens at different times, like you get distracted, you get discouraged, and I kind of put it down thinking that because of what other people said, what I needed to focus on was my preaching. And so I did. Um, I transitioned to another church where I got ordained. I was still the youth minister. I was still building whatever they had. I took wherever I went, whatever was there, I took it and I built it up. And so we did the same thing there. I was teaching the kids. This is Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church. And I was doing what I could to make sure that the kids had understanding of how to see things in life from a biblical perspective, a godly perspective, to the best of my ability. And that lasted a few years before I was called spiritually to another ministry. And this is kind of a progress where each time I moved, they wanted to focus more on my preaching and less on my music. And me not knowing nothing, I was just like, okay, I mean, they know better. I guess this is what's supposed to happen. All the meanwhile, I do it a little bit, do some music here, some music there, and the Lord would not, he wouldn't leave it alone. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't just let me put something down and not bother me about it. I don't know about you. I don't know if there's something that God has told you is part of your DNA, is part of what you're supposed to be doing to fulfill his calling, and you said no. But I said no by default by concentrating on other things, and it did something to me. It bothered me. And I could push it down so that I could focus on growing, because I knew since 2008 I was called to start a church, and that was before I even knew that people actually did that, like church planning the way it's done today. I didn't know anything about that. But fast forward, been faithful to the call. In 2013, me and my wife Erin moved down to Jacksonville. I am trying to be like other preachers and pastors that I've seen, dressing with the vest and the ties and trying to be, catchy in that way, trying to do church and church music the way that some of the popular and poppin' ministries are. And around 2018, God was like, take it off. Like, it's time to get back to who I made you. And I made you an MC. I made you this. I made you that. I made you an educator. Use these things in their fullness to bring me glory, to reach the people that are in your traditional church circle, that are in the education circle, that are in the hip hop circle. Use everything I gave you. And so from there, I've been doing it in church. But in 2024, God connected me with some people, some artists I respect and know and have been connected to, some new artists that I met through ministry connections, and they pushed and pushed in love, encouraging me to go ahead and start releasing music. And so, man, it's a blessing as I think about it, because I've been nervous, scared, whatever, every step of the way because of the way that I thought about me. And finally realized, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what you do until you blow up. Then everybody hates you or everybody loves you. But at this level, nobody cares. And so if I'm going to do it, just be obedient. Just do what God is calling you to do. And so I released the album this year. I released Vintage Season this year. And I'm reclaiming the joy of a past season, but in the productivity I have right now, the focus I have right now, and the life space I have right now. And so that's what you're going to be seeing. Like, you're going to see that as we walk together, you're going to see me doing podcasts, and this one's solo, but you'll be seeing me bring guests on to do podcasts. You'll be seeing music come out for me that continues to encourage and edify and address things from a perspective of this dude who has got some years in the game and is not necessarily trying to always make you dance. Sometimes I'm just trying to make you think. And so sometimes the music may be like vintage season where it's all sample. It seems sample in old school based productions. Sometimes it may seem like or sound like stuff that's more current or poppy in the hip hop circle, but it's going to be authentic. You're going to get authentic music from me. You're going to get authentic music that shows my faith and my journey and shows where God has taken me. And you're going to get these conversations that I'm having with you today, and conversations that we're going to have with other people that are relevant to help us not just be people that deal with controversial opinions. We're not going to just be saying stuff to say it. I'm not saying stuff just for clicks. If it comes out like that, then awesome, wonderful. But the goal is to be about purpose. The goal is to be faithful to my why. The goal is to be spiritually healthy and wealthy, and then pray that as I'm obedient, that you'll grow in obedience and that we'll be blessed together. And so I just need everybody to understand, like, I am not going to be somebody that is going to be satisfied as a pastor or as a person advocating a faith that only lives on Sundays. I'm not going to be a person or a pastor that is satisfied advocating a lifestyle where we only engage in faith topics in a surface way, or a way that's not applicable. I'm also too old to fake the funk. I got to be me. I'm too old for this, man. You see these gray hairs? I'm too old for this. I may not dye my hair, but if I lose, y'all might see me with some kind of, something. If this stuff gets any thinner, you may see me with you might see it. I just need you to know, you might see it. But beyond the hair, I'm going to be real. It's going to be authentic. It's going to be authentic. One of the most important things in life is authentic relationship, and I understand it's difficult. As difficult as it would have seemed to me growing up, like, many of us are bonding through the technology, even if we don't actually meet each other. And I guess it should make sense because music has impacted me that way, where you listen to somebody's honest and sincere music and you feel like you're connected to them because you can identify with what they're going through. In the same way, man, I'm going to give you the best that I got. And what's going to be coming up, we're going to be talking about legacy. We're going to be talking about focus. We're talking about purpose. And we're going to be just discussing a few popular topics. I'm not going to be too big into the current events thing unless y'all really desire to hear from me about some stuff that's happening in the world. I'll give it then, but I don't want to be the person. I don't want to be a current event guy. It's not my desire. My desire is to help us do actual life and not just respond to what's happening around us. I'm sure there's some stuff that I'll need to speak on, but that's not the goal or my focus. And so I really wanted to just help you get to know me a little bit. If this resonated with you, I want you to hit the subscribe button. This is SpitLIFE. Leave a review, a positive review. Like they say, a 5-star rating. I don't think you can do that on YouTube, but just like it and say something. And follow me. You can follow me on Instagram. My personal Instagram is I am Ernest Almond, but I'm going to be trying to focus my music content and my podcast content on SpitLIFE Media. SpitLIFE Media. SpitLIFE Media is also the website, SpitLifeMedia.com. If you're talking music and video and things of that nature, if you're talking about me as in my new ventures as a coach, as a consultant, as a public speaker, a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker, then you're looking for ErnestAlmond.com. And so ErnestAlmond.com is my speaking and coaching. SpitLIFE Media is my music and my media. I'm really going to be focusing on both of these. Feel free to join me on the journey. If you go to my music website, all my albums are pick your own price. And so if you're if you want to bless me, bless me. I'll appreciate it. I'll be joyful with it. But just know, there are so many areas in our life where darkness and negativity can take hold, and it is the enemy's desire that you stay there stuck in depression, in demoralization, in distraction, destitution, desperate, and disconnected from God. I'm here to tell you that your purpose is to glorify God. And because that's your purpose, He's made a promise to be with you and never leave you or forsake you. And so you feel alone, but He's there with you. You may feel voiceless, but He hears you. And because He hears you, because He knows you, you're in the greatest position possible for a turnaround right now. You may feel like it's all about death around you, but you have the power to not only hear words of life, but speak them yourself and see a turnaround. And so we're here, and as long as the Lord leads me to use this medium, I'm going to use it. And so thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, check out my websites, follow me on social media, and we will not be just those that pretend to be about it or deal in darkness and death. We're going to be those that spit life. Peace.